Okay, I have my work now taped down with clear tape, and I have made sure that I've removed the burrs in between the layers. I am going to now drill my first hole, and I'm going to stop after that. So I'm drilling through, making sure my drill is straight up and down. And now I did not drill all the holes. Okay. If I were to drill through all the holes at this point, what would happen as I am riveting, the metal will shift. Okay, and so you want to drill only that first hole and then set that rivet. Okay, and then you'll drill the next rivet hole and set that, and so forth. Okay, that way you will avoid your shifting of your metal and keep your holes from not lining up. All right, so my my wire is in the drill hole now, and it should be a snug, tight fit. Remember, it's the exact gauge of drill to the wire. And I'm going to take a moment to make a couple of shims. Now, the shims, this is my own little trick. And so what I'm doing, the shims are going to be a little lift. Okay, there's one. And there is another. Okay. And as I just suggest the shims to begin with, as you get more experience, you do not need them. But the reason why I use this is that my formula for the length of the rivet wire is the gauge of metal, the thickness of the wire on both sides, okay, of the metal. And so I take the wire, I put a shim below, and I put a shim on top. That shim is just made out of the same gauge of wire that I was using. And then I'm going to use the flat cutter, these flat cutters, and I'm going to use the flat side of the cutter, press down so that there's no extra slack in there, and cut. At this point, I can remove the first shim. All right. When I cut that wire, I can press the end of the I can press the wire until it be severed. Okay, so that end is actually work hardened, okay, as well as having a little cutting nub at the end there. So you need to remove that. I'm going to take a file, and I'm going to, remember I have tape on my metal, and I'm going to file parallel. File parallel. Your wire should be nice and perpendicular to your surface, but you're running that file parallel. Okay, you don't want to file it at an angle, because when you come to hammer it, if the wire is angled, then the force from the hammer will cause the rivet wire to bend. So make sure it's parallel. And so now you're ready to do your first round of hammering. This here is an official rivet hammer, okay? It's a very small cross peen hammer, and of course the cross peen hammer at end will cause the metal to splay and go in opposite directions. And so you can do that first, a couple of rounds of that first, and that will help get things to kind of being forced out for your rivet head. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to do some hammering. I'm using my fingers as a guide. So my hammer head is not going to be touching or hitting my metal. Okay, you really want to be careful about that. All right, I still have my shim on the lower part. Okay. Now I'm going to switch over and do a flat hammering, making sure I'm not letting that hammer head hit my surface, using my fingers to guide. Okay, couple of little taps. Now at this point, I'm going to turn it over, make sure that nub and work hardened end is filed off, making sure that it's a nice parallel filing. Starting with my cross peen. If you don't have the cross peen, you don't have to do it. Some people like to file an X in the middle. I find that can be hard for a lot of people, and then they end up nicking their metal. Or you can just go to a blunt rivet. Your rivets tend to be a little more blunt without this step. So I'm cross peening to begin with. You can, I think it's more important for larger rivet heads. So generally my rule of thumb is if I'm using 14 gauge, I try to file an X or really use that cross peen to begin with. Okay, so I've done my first round of just tap, tap, tap hammering with, and so at this point, you're going to evaluate your rivet. And I can see that my rivet is a little more to one side. So I'm going to reposition it so that that rivet is still, it's suspended in the center. And when I put it on back to the steel block, I am not pressing my metal to the block, okay, because then your rivet wire will end up uneven. So you can do that, okay, and that's a good way to test. Okay, so tap, 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 just a few taps, lift it over, tap, 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 making sure that rivet wire is staying centered. Very shortly, you're not going to be able to reposition. It's going to get locked in. I'm just doing very light taps back and forth. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, looking at the side view, they should be equal. Feel your rivet head. Is it snaggy? Okay. You can either hammer it down a little more. What some people like to do at that point, use the cross peen to kind of take down those edges a little bit. I think it might be a little safer to do it with a round-headed. Again, you don't want to be hitting your surface of your metal. Just hitting that rivet head. Flat. There we go. and it shouldn't feel too snaggy. If you still have the plastic on, you can just hit it a little bit with some sandpaper. That'll take any sharpness off of it. Okay, so my first rivet is completed. Okay, now you can go on to drilling your second hole through the base plate. It's stuck. There we go. Okay. And continuing riveting. I'm still going to use that same set of shims that I had. And you just keep on repeating the processes until all your riveting is completed. Peel off your tape, do any last minute touches that you might need to do. Running parallel. Oops. Don't think I really need that. Okay, rivet number 2. And so they can go quite quickly. All right, thank you.